and welcome back to another episode of the Branching Out podcast. Today we're joined by Patryk Zietarski. He's a Utility Arb Senior Project Manager. So let's get started. Welcome, Patryk. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
So Utility Arb Senior Project Manager, I've got an idea of what that means. I did in a past life work in Utility Arb a long time ago. But could you explain to the business what it is what your role is in ground control? I know Utility Arb's kind of broken up by region and client, so if you could give us a bit of an idea what that looks like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's a quite a bit of a mouthful in terms of the title for my role. Basically, in kind of day-to-day stuff, I look after field teams, our chain of supply, field teams mostly, and project managers, and also the surveyors. So anyone coming to contract, my main role is kind of to provide development in terms of the field, and also sort of on the IT side of things, because sometimes we get really a broad mixture of kind of personalities. We have people who are sort of ARB trained but not particularly sort of strong on the IT side of things. So there is a really big variety in terms of the skills. So my job is kind of come in and bridge all of that together, as well as obviously delivering shutdowns, because that's our main component of our role, to obviously deliver the outages.
Yep. Okay, so you're the IT expert of Utility Arb. Can I call you that?
So I would say so, yeah. I mean, I got my head around. We operate on an internal system called Woodplan, and I suppose the other divisions kind of operate on the same program. It's a surveying program. Most of our work, from some kind of, going to field, taking pictures from the poles, from the trees, marking everything down on the survey, through all the way through to work orders and purchase orders. So it's quite broad. Sort of system, and it takes quite a while to sort of get your head around it, as when you first come onto the business. But for some reason, I just find my niche with it within the first couple of weeks, and really got my head around it. So managers sort of above me sometimes come and sort of seek a bit of advice how to go around certain things on Woodplan. So it's quite a big part of our job, dealing with that program. And people coming on board, it's a little bit overwhelming at first, but it's because there's so many functions within the program.
Yeah, I think anyone working in ICE2, which is essentially I'm trying to think of a nice way of saying this, an adaptation of Woodplan that we have used across the business and other divisions. If anyone's ever had the pleasure of working in ICE2 or Woodplan, you know that it's a good system. It's just you have to know how to work around it and to fit sometimes your needs. So It's good to know that I'm not the only one doing that, because I do a little bit of that from time to time, dabble. So you you mentioned shutdowns. So is that could you give us a bit more an idea, like what is that and how do you plan that and how does that work?
So from some kind of I'll start from the beginning then. So we start on the ground. So we've got internal surveyors that go to the field. I suppose, put in the layman's terms, do all the legwork. Surveying the spans. Once the circuit is surveyed, it gets split into two packs, what we call live pack and shutdown program. The live work gets issued to the field teams. We might probably touch a little bit on that later on, but in terms of the shutdown, we put all the shutdown spans into a shutdown program, and that gets split into what we call the bubbles, into the shutdown areas. Created by the senior authorized people, and once the circuit is bubbled up, it gets then issued to project managers in the relevant areas.
Yep.
And that entails, from cutting one span to 15 or 20 spans within sort of that bubble. So then our job is to go review the sites 40 days prior to the job taking place, build the resources, build the costings, figure out what equipment we're going to need, how many men, how long the job is going to take, and whether it's actually achievable to cut everything within that area. during one shutdown. Sometimes we get occurrences where the areas are so big because from this kind of switching operation, it's really difficult to kind of break it down. So the areas are sometimes really large, and what we do, we break them into phases. So we try to focus on cutting as much as we can to reduce the
like cost of getting out there and doing the work,
yes,
really. Yeah.
exactly, and
Yeah.
affecting the sort of clients or landowners, how often they're being switched off as well.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You're not just working with a client, you're working with quite often homeowners and business owners. So we call them property owners, but at the end of the day, there are people that are probably quite protective of their home or their business, and they don't want anything negative to happen. So, or they get really protective about a particular tree. So I assume it's a lot of negotiating skills involved
There
in,
is.
yeah, in that. So is there like a typical week for you then? Are you training people on the system? Are you planning projects? Like, how does that work for you?
So currently we are in the middle of well, probably coming up towards the end of mobilization. To At the beginning of this year, we've won two large contracts, Colchester and Cambridge, in addition to existing contract in Enfield and Purfleet. So the goal from the beginning of this year was to mobilize the network, so we have enough resources internally and externally to be able to kind of facilitate for the contract and meet our projections and KPIs, etc. So we had a lot of moving parts, a lot of people coming through the door. So it was a little bit chaotic, to be truthful,
Yeah.
but we because there was a lot going on. We had some challenges with the resources. The way the sort of contract was laid out to tier one contractors, it was broken down sort of into smaller areas. So even though we won the contract, we only had the part of the Colchester area and part of the Cambridge area, and all the
Okay.
tier one contractors kind of worked in the same area, Colchester and Cambridge as well. So we didn't get given the whole area, if that
Yep.
makes sense.
Yep.
So everyone was looking for the resources almost at the same time. So it's
Yeah.
really challenging to get field teams and internal management to deliver. So yeah, it was very busy. Still is, but we've like I said, we're nearly through it now. We've got enough internal management and enough sort of field teams to sort of at least start delivering efficiently.
Yeah, that is quite a challenge because you're basically fighting. I mean, there's from being in training and knowing how much we do in training for utility, there is only so many people with the qualifications that are required
Yes,
to do this type of work. So,
yeah,
and it's not cheap training either, getting your UA qualifications and all your chainsaw qualifications. So, yeah, so I can imagine that's been quite the hill to climb.
yes,
I live in
yeah,
the Colchester area, so I'll be keeping an eye out for you guys in the coming months.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so obviously onboarding and recruiting and everything, that's been a recent challenge of yours that you've obviously probably had to work with field team support and recruitment on to kind of get people in place. But also there's the exciting thing where you are getting a new contract and you know
Oh, absolutely. There's
yeah, and how we deliver on that contract could mean that you do get more of Colchester, Cambridge in the coming years. So we'll
yes,
keep our
cross fingers. Yeah, there's
yes, we'll
there's
keep our
really
fingers
there's
crossed for that.
there's really big plans laid out, and we're heading towards the right direction in terms of our division. We've got superb sort of head of division Barry Bright, who's taking care of us all, I suppose, in a really good manner. And he's got a finger on the contract. So we're going in the right direction. Like I said, it's a bit challenging with the field teams, I suppose, because we've got enough management in house now. What we find on Utility Arb, it's not really known industry.
Yeah.
So people who are trained like myself, I'm a professional arborist, and when I first started doing this job, probably about 9 years ago now, I never knew of Utility Arb. When you go do your initial training with
Yeah.
arboriculture sort of courses and climbing and sort of chainsaw operating and sort of felling in forestry sort of environments, you don't really hear a lot of Utility Arb. And people who come from domestic, um, sort of contracts coming to utility, they realize there is a lot of training that's involved. There is a lot of knowledge that's involved. Oh, the UA qualification, like you've already mentioned, the UA qualification is really overwhelming because there is a lot. Additionally, sort of on a smaller domestic sort of contracts, you don't tend to have the volume of requirements, such as, the people tend to sort of skip on the risk assessments and pure check sheets and sort of keeping updates with all the authorization and refreshers and stuff. Obviously, in order to work for large clients like UK Power Networks in our division, the requirements and the standards are really high. So people coming on board, they sometimes get disheartened because they're not used to that kind of environment.
Yep.
And that's the biggest challenge. People don't really realize how difficult it is actually to get into Utility Arb, and that's the biggest sort of milestone that we face in terms of recruiting new field teams.
Yeah, it's that step up, because you're not and at the end of the day, you're not just cutting a tree just that exists. You're cutting a tree near a power line that could cause you, I don't even want to say it, a lot of physical harm. It's you have to have your T's crossed, your I's dotted, and know what you're working with in order to carry out that work safely. So yeah, it adds a level of safety that is needed, and people coming from domestic, if they're looking to get into utility, that's a good place to start, is to look at the Utility Arb qualifications and understand the requirements involved. So
yeah, definitely, because the financial rewards are really good, because I already mentioned the job is dangerous. We work in a very, very high risk environment. Working from heights is within itself is a really high risk environment. But then when you add 11,000 volt power lines running through the trees or near the trees where you have to work, it's a huge risk to obviously human health. So the financial rewards are there, and that's what kind of draws people into it. But then when they realize the kind of obligations and contractual requirements you have to go through, sometimes it takes people a step back and actually make them think they really want to do this. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but we've got plans in place to kind of overcome that in the future. Yeah.
We're into 2025 now. So is there any exciting projects you have for this year that you're looking forward to?
Yes, in fact, I do. Yes, I was helping one of our project managers recently started, probably about 9 months ago. So still in kind of a training mode, not constant supervision, but here and there, I kind of show myself inside and see if there is anything I can support him with. So we went to review a site in Braintree for the power outage, to find there was a big spruce plantation. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but UK is currently suffering with a disease called a Great Spruce Bark Beetle. So it's a mouthful.
Yes, that is. Okay, the Great Spruce Bark Beetle. Say that 5 times.
Okay. Yeah, really fast. Basically, what this bug does, it bores into the cambium area of the tree, the live tissue on the outside of the tree, just beneath the bark, and it causes damage to the conducting vessels and over the course of time kills the trees. And it's spreading through England and Wales and Scotland and kind of all over the place as a wildfire, killing all the trees. So when we got to site, I kind of looked at all the trees and I was like, look, I think something's going on here. Like it's definitely doesn't look right. There is scattered trees over the place. Something doesn't seem right. So we had a closer look to then find out that the area was actually infested with the beetle. Because it's quite very invasive species, you have to notify Forestry Commission. So once we sort of conducted the site visit, we built all the resources, we looked, what we're going to need to kind of carry out the job. We've contacted Forestry Commission to come and review and confirm whether it was that specific pest. So there was a lot of sort of back and forth because forestry becomes a big organization. There's really challenging to actually get hold of someone, to come
Yeah,
and review
yeah, I
the site.
imagine
So,
when it comes down to
so
actually reporting it.
yeah, that's right. So we had to wait for the 2-3 weeks for them to come out to site to confirm, and they have confirmed that there is an area that's infested with the beetle. So there is certain procedures that we have to go through. We needed to mechanize. Um, mechanize the network because it wasn't safe to cut the sort of traditional way
Yeah,
from the cherry pickers and sort of ordinary failing because the timber has slightly different structures. So yeah, the requirements are that any timber that's cut and has been confirmed with the spruce beetle has to remain on site and has to be chipped, including all the large timber. No material can be left on site basically and
yeah,
chipped. So we needed to get external contractors with the large machines. One of which is called, I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called a Menzi.
yep.
It's a very
Benzemac.
big machine. Yeah, that's it, Menzi Mac. Yeah, with the timber grabs and a big saw attachment. Basically, it goes up in the air, cuts the trees, puts them down, and feeds them straight into sort of like a large commercial chipper. Um, so yeah, we've got this project coming up on this 3rd of March, I believe. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's
So
quite an interesting site. Yeah, we've not come across anything like that again.
yeah,
Sorry,
because you're
before.
almost doing, you're not only doing your job, but you're also kind of doing a job for the Forestry Commission in that you're containing disease and trying to prevent its spread essentially. So yeah, that's very interesting.
Exactly.
I wish
Yeah.
you the best of luck. I hope that runs smoothly for you. Yeah,
I
no,
think
that's
so far so good. I think we've got everything planned as it needs to be. There was a lot of communication with UK Power Networks themselves because it was the job was outside of contract specifications.
yeah,
So anything that had potential to fall on the network, sort of within 20, 25 meters away from the line, we had to fell everything because the trees over the course of time would die. And there was obviously a risk to the infrastructure and human health as well.
yep,
So we needed to kind of almost get extra funds to provide all
yeah,
the large
exactly.
equipment because
Yeah,
our contractual specification is 4 meter clearance to the side and above. So it was way outside what we normally do. So it was quite an involved project. There was a lot of moving parts, but we now at that stage where we've taken a step back with Chris a couple of days ago and thought, you know what, I think we're ready for that job. So really excited, looking forward to it. It's gonna be a great day, I think.
great. I will. I expect to hear. I'd like to hear an update
Oh,
for it.
absolutely. Yeah, we're
Yep.
gonna we're gonna build a little bit of a case study around it as well and share it with the company because it's something that we haven't come across just yet. So
Yeah.
we're kind of first ones to pull something like that off, which is quite fun.
Yeah, and that's the thing for anyone listening. If they, I mean, the chance are with something like this that's spreading across the UK that we are going to come across it again, so that people know that we do have some experience in it now and it's not completely new. That's good. So brilliant. Is there, I'm going to kind of, before I move on to you, in your kind of development, would you say there's any misconceptions or stereotypes about the work that you guys do that you'd like to debunk?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, to be truthful, the older years I've worked in Utility Arb, I've only come across one lady who worked on the within the trees. And I think that's something that could potentially change because there is a lot of ladies that would want to maybe get into the utility art, but necessarily don't because the egotistic kind of mentality within industry, all the muscly men and big
Yeah.
chainsaws and stuff. But that's not really the reality. There's a lot of work that doesn't, it's not.
It requires agility that women do actually possess, like the
Yes,
ability to climb and things like that. I mean,
it
that was
is
me growing
exactly.
up as a kid. I would be the kid in the tree that my mother would be like, "Oh my God, why is she in another tree?" So yeah, like girls can climb trees too.
They certainly can. They certainly can. The girl I used to work with, the girl I come across with working for previous company, she was amazing. She was one of the better climbers within the company.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure why there is such a big gap in terms of the sex industry sort of. Yeah, not sure.
Well, I mean that, yeah, there's a lot to unfold there, but I think the key message there is that, I mean, it is something, an industry that women could easily excel at.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and if it's something that you have considered and you'd like, you know, that opportunity is there, and not to shy away from it just because all you see is your bearded men, your
That's right.
bearded arm
Yeah,
men.
yeah.
There does, no offense, but there does seem to be a general consensus. A lot of you guys do have beards, so I don't understand, is that it, but maybe that's a misconception as well. But you
Yeah,
do
that
see a lot of
myself.
arb guys with beards.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, right. So let's turn the table a little bit. Let's talk about you specifically, and your development. So, um, obviously you've been with ground control for a bit now. What has been your development since you've been at ground control? What have you been working on, in your role really?
Yeah, so it's been very interesting journey. Like I said before I left my previous company, I didn't really know or understand utility arb. One of my colleagues who I used to work with at the previous company, we both worked together for several years. He started at ground control, and when I left my previous employer, I reached out to James Gorman to see whether there was any jobs opening for within sort of his department, and he said there are. They were looking for surveyors at the time. They were looking for project managers. So I applied for having the experience running the office at my previous job, running the crews. I had a bit of an experience in sort of management. So I applied for the project manager job successfully. Um,
Well done. Welcome.
yes. And it's been very interesting journey. In terms of the utility training, all the UA qualifications from electrical basic knowledge to tree species recognition, UA5, which is the surveying course.
Yep.
When I first started, excuse me, I started to survey. I wasn't necessarily running a new project just yet because obviously I wasn't experienced. So my role at the beginning of ground control journey was to go out and survey spans, which to be truthful, like I said about earlier on the wood plan, I got my head around it fairly
Yep.
quickly, and kind of managed to successfully deliver quite a lot of sort of surveying spans, which then led to further development into project managing and delivering the outages, delivering the shutdowns. At the beginning, when I first started, sort of the outages, the shutdown delivery, it was kind of based on work under supervision. I worked under James. He was obviously there to support and provide the guidance in terms of the resources and how everything the whole structure sort of works. So we would kind of look at the smaller projects between sort of 1 to 2 spans where it only requires 1 to 2 field teams and sort of very basic equipment to then kind of progress over the course of time. Then at that point, sort of flying on my own, to delivering 30, the biggest project I ever delivered it was I think £67,000, and it kind of contained about 32 spans. So very, very
Yeah.
big project. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a power outage for a week, multiple teams, multiple equipment, road closures, and it was very, very involved job. So that's the kind of scope of work. You can go from
Yeah.
some sort of one to absolute sort of 100, in very short space of time. And I find my niche. I really enjoy working in utilities. It's very challenging because it's a very dynamic job. There is a lot of variables that we can't unfortunately control, in terms of the switching operations. I mean, shutdown wise, but it's a very rewarding job. There's a lot of planning that has to go into it. There is a lot of moving parts, and you as a person, as a project manager, you have to pull all that into one really. And once it's delivered, there is a sense of achievement.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
that's
you get to see
that
it, you
that
get to
little.
see it from a bit of a mess to it being not a mess, and hopefully protecting the network and protecting people's property, and all in one really. Um, No, and
Yeah.
that's it's a good story. I mean, as your journey from going from the domestic side of things to, if you take the time and you put the effort in to understanding utility arb, and understanding the systems that you can develop and grow in that, and become, almost guru in your own self, doing special shutdown projects. So yeah, no, it's definitely
Mhm.
definitely a great, yeah,
I
motivation for
was very
somebody
I was
who's
very
thinking about
fortunate.
getting into it.
Yes, yeah,
And
definitely. I mean, I was very fortunate when I first started at ground control because, like I said, for first few months I was kind of on the ground doing the legwork, then moved into project management, and sort of beginning towards the end of last year we starting the mobilization process, and we needed senior project managers to kind of look after the operations on the ground as we are expanding from internally and externally. And I have a very good drive in terms of health and safety, and kind of got my head around, talking to field teams, going through the compliance and authorization and doing safety engagements and toolbox talks. And that was recognized by management. And Barry Bright spent a lot of time and invested a lot of time in me to kind of develop me into the senior project manager role, which I'm very grateful for. And like I said, I kind of found my own feet, and I kind of find myself really enjoying that role at the moment.
have you done any professional development along the way, as far as, because obviously you've gone from surveying to managing, so how do you develop yourself as a manager?
So ground control offers, I'm sure you're aware of it, but the listeners who aren't aware of it, ground control provides internal training. I studied a GC managed course. It's
Mhm.
a series of modules, I believe. Crikey, I can't remember now. It's been a while. 11 or
Yeah,
12.
there's I think
Just
11 or 12.
Yes, yeah, and it takes you through a whole series of managerial skills that are needed to kind of being able to deal with people and sort of the project themselves, because I suppose the biggest challenge it is to deal with people.
Yep. Well,
Um,
yeah, no, work together and collaborate with others.
yes,
We'll
yes,
go with
yes,
that one.
yeah, yeah. That's right. That's probably a nicer way of putting it, but
No,
it
but
is
yeah, I get you.
yes.
I just like, we try to end on some parting of knowledge, because everyone's got, I think, a bit of wisdom to share along the way. I'm gonna ask you, who do you look up to the most and why? And it can be anyone.
I mean, since I've begun work at ground control, the Barry, I've mentioned him a few times already. Barry
Yeah.
Bright has been very, very supportive, and I really look up to him as a good, strong manager. I come from backgrounds where management wasn't really a thing. That the manager who's I was kind of working under wasn't a very nice person. And since I kind of started working here, I realized that actually working for a bigger company where there is structure, when there's nice people, and there's a really good, friendly working environment, and everyone has the same goal, it makes the workload so much
Yeah.
simpler and so much easier, because you've got someone you can really, really rely on. And Barry has been there from very beginning, and he spent a lot of time, his own time, personal time, as well as obviously the work time to help me through the harder times.
Yep.
So yeah, I just want to say thanks to Barry for being there for me. Yeah,
No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today. I appreciate it. It's been really insightful. And yeah, I will, like I said, be keeping an eye out for you guys and your upcoming projects and around Colchester. Thank
yeah.
you.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Take care. And that's it for us today. If you or your team have an exciting project going on and want to share, please reach out and we'll get you on the podcast. Until next time, take care.